My parents always favored my sister and treated me like a burden. No matter what I achieved, I was never enough. Then I got engaged to her bestie, finally something they couldn't take. But everything fell apart when she confessed she was pregnant. Frankie, I need to ask you something. Do you believe people ever really change? I mean, fundamentally change. Because sometimes I wonder if I ever even had a shot at becoming more than what my family made me. Growing up, I was never the golden child. That title belonged to my older sister, Brielle. She was brilliant, beautiful, charismatic, every damn thing I wasn't. But what made it worse wasn't just her perfection. It was how effortlessly my parents adored her for it, and how blatantly they resented me. Not just ignored, resented. Like my very existence was some kind of failure they had to tolerate. I was born with a medical condition, nothing life-threatening, but it left me physically weaker than other kids, and I guess that was enough for them to write me off. My mom used to call me delicate in this way that sounded more like disappointment. My dad didn't even bother sugarcoating it. He'd tell me straight to my face, no son of mine should be this fragile. Brielle, though? She could do no wrong. She got a B+ in algebra, and they celebrated with dinner at her favorite steakhouse. I brought home a perfect report card. Not a word, not even a nod, just a pile of dishes waiting for me in the sink like I hadn't done enough. But I didn't give up. I pushed myself, physically, mentally, just to be seen. Joined clubs, got straight A's, earned scholarships, won awards. And still, nothing. My victories were invisible. Her mediocrity was a masterpiece. I guess that's why when Sabrina came into my life, I clung to her like oxygen. She was Brielle's best friend back in high school. The first time she noticed me, I thought it was a joke. No one ever noticed me, not in that way. But she did. Her laugh was warm, her eyes actually saw me. And slowly, what started as small smiles and inside jokes turned into late-night texts and quiet conversations under the stars. Dating Sabrina started out almost like a rebellion. Like, look, I have something she can't touch. But it grew. It grew fast and deep and real. She made me feel human, loved, wanted. We moved in together after college, got engaged a year later. I thought, finally, I've built a life that's mine, one that no one in my family could ruin. I was wrong. It happened on a Tuesday, Frankie. I came home from work, just like any other day. Sabrina sat me down, and I knew instantly something was wrong. Her eyes were puffy, lips trembling, like she'd been practicing this speech for hours but still didn't know how to begin. She told me she was pregnant. I should have been thrilled. I was thrilled for about 30 seconds. Then she said the words that shattered my entire world. It's not yours. At first, I couldn't even process it. It didn't compute. I just stared at her, like maybe if I looked hard enough, she'd take it back. But she didn't. She kept going. Said it had been going on for months, that it started as a mistake, but then feelings got involved. And then she said the name, Travis. Travis, Brielle's husband. I didn't even react at first. I think my brain refused to, like it slammed every door shut to protect me from the full impact of what she was saying. My fiancée, the woman I was going to build a future with, had been sleeping with my sister's husband. The next few days were a blur. I barely slept, barely ate, just sat in the dark of our apartment replaying every moment of the last year, trying to figure out how I missed it. All those times she'd gone over to Brielle's for wine nights. All the times she said she was too tired for intimacy. All the lies wrapped in smiles. And then came the final blow. I confronted Brielle. She didn't even deny it, didn't apologize. Just stood there, arms crossed, looking down on me like I was a child throwing a tantrum. Her exact words? You were never strong enough for Sabrina. You just don't want to admit it. Frankie, I don't know what kind of monster says that to their own brother. But it didn't end there. Travis had the audacity to act like he was the victim in all this, smirking, shrugging, saying, it just happened, like accidentally tripping and falling into my fiancé's bed, repeatedly. And my parents? They told me to forgive. Yeah, they said I needed to look at the bigger picture, that this baby, this betrayal, was family and I should let it go, that clinging to anger wouldn't help anyone. My mom even suggested naming the baby after our father, as if that would somehow heal everything. As if giving the child the name of the man who made me feel like a failure my whole life would make me forget the knife in my back. Frankie, I snapped. I cut them all off, blocked numbers, moved out, left everything behind except my own goddamn dignity. I thought if I put enough distance between me and the wreckage, maybe I could start to heal. But they wouldn't let me go. They keep reaching out, guilt-tripping me, saying I'm being selfish, that family is family no matter what. Even now, after everything, they want me to come to the baby shower. Can you believe that? A baby that is both my nephew and the symbol of the worst betrayal I've ever known. They say I'm bitter, that I need to grow up, that love requires forgiveness. But where was their love when I was just a scared little boy begging to be seen? Where was their love when I brought home trophies and they looked the other way? Where was their love when my heart was ripped out by the only person who ever made me feel whole? Nowhere. And still, they want me to fix it. Frankie, tell me, am I wrong for refusing to forgive them? Am I wrong for burning the bridge and walking away? Frankie, after I cut them off, there was this moment, just one, really brief, where I thought maybe I'd finally won. Not over them, not over Brielle or Travis or even Sabrina. Just one somewhere, somehow. Like reclaiming a single square inch of my life was something worth holding on to. But silence? Silence is a funny thing. At first it felt peaceful, quiet, like I could breathe again for the first time in years. And then it turned cruel, because in that silence the ghost got louder. I moved into this tiny one-bedroom on the edge of town. Barely enough space for a bed and a desk, but it was mine. No memories soaked into the walls, no footsteps I didn't trust. I told myself I was going to rebuild, start fresh. Hell, I even bought a plant. You ever do that? Buy something alive so you don't feel so alone? I named it Chance. Like maybe if I kept it alive, I'd prove to myself I could still nurture something, even if I couldn't keep my own life from collapsing. The first month was a blur of numbness. I worked, ate when I remembered, slept when I couldn't cry anymore. Every now and then, I'd hear a song we used to dance to, or catch a glimpse of a girl who looked like Sabrina, and my chest would just cave in all over again. And still, the messages came. From my parents, from Brielle, even from old relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Voicemails filled with guilt-drenched concern, texts that said things like, "You're still our son," or "Don't punish the baby for the mistakes of adults." Frankie, they really thought I could just pretend this didn't happen, that I could smile at birthday parties and pass the mashed potatoes to the man who destroyed my engagement, to the sister who enabled it, that I could play uncle to a child born from betrayal. I stayed strong for a while, didn't respond, but then I got one voicemail from my mother that nearly broke me. She was crying, said she missed her little boy, said it was time to stop running from the pain and come home, that maybe they hadn't been perfect parents, but I needed to stop holding the past over their heads. And she said, "Forgiveness is what family is built on. Otherwise, what are we?" I'll tell you what we are, Frankie. We're a collection of wounds dressed up as tradition. That's what we are. And still, I sat there with the phone in my hand, my thumb hovering over the call button, because for just a moment, I wondered if maybe she was right. That's the thing about emotional abuse. It doesn't scream in your face. It whispers, it confuses, it gaslights you into thinking you're the one causing all the damage. So I went to see a therapist. First time I've ever stepped into a room like that, told her everything about Brielle, about Sabrina, about the baby, my parents, the favoritism, the contempt, the silence. She just looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "You were never loved conditionally because they never learned how to love without control." That line, it stuck, because that's what it was, wasn't it? Control. I was the scapegoat, the afterthought, the vessel for every resentment they couldn't aim at Brielle, because she was their precious doll on a pedestal. The way my dad used to say, "Be more like your sister," as if I didn't spend my entire childhood trying. I remember once when I was about 10, I made this stupid clay model for art class. It was lopsided and crooked, but I was proud of it. Showed it to my mom, hoping, just hoping, she'd smile. You know what she said? "Looks like something your sister could have made in preschool." It's funny the things we carry into adulthood. That tiny clay piece, Frankie. I think about it more than I should, but I'm getting off track. Here's where it got even worse. I was finally starting to feel something like stability. I'd picked up a side project. I was eating regular meals again. Chance, my plant, was still alive. Things were okay. Then Brielle showed up. Not a call, not a text. She came to my door. I almost didn't open it, but I did. I don't know why. Morbid curiosity? Some small part of me hoping she was there to say sorry? Of course not. She looked exhausted, like motherhood had aged her and fast forward. She held a baby carrier, and I just stood there, numb. I couldn't even look at the kid. I wouldn't. She asked to come in. I said no. She asked again. Said she just wanted to talk. Said she brought photos. Said Sabrina was struggling and maybe it was time to find a new normal. I laughed, Frankie, out loud, right in her face. I asked her if she remembered what it was like to have someone you love look you in the eyes and choose someone else. And not just anyone, but the one person you should have been able to trust the most. She didn't answer, just stared at me, then said something that made my blood run cold. She was never really happy with you, you know. That's why it happened. Frankie, I saw red. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. But I stepped out, closed the door behind me and said, "Get off my property and don't ever come back." I haven't seen her since. But the messages from my parents, they tripled after that. Now I'm being called cruel, immature. He's just a baby. He needs family. They keep saying the child shouldn't pay the price for the adult's mistakes. But here's what I think, Frankie. That kid will grow up one day, and he'll have questions. And maybe by then, Brielle will finally know what it's like to look into the eyes of someone who expects love and not know how to give it. Not because of me, but because she never learned it from the people who were supposed to teach us. But Frankie, I'm tired of feeling like I'm the villain in this story. Like my refusal to forgive is some kind of sin greater than what they did to me. I didn't destroy our family. They did. All I did was survive it. Frankie, you ever notice how people love to preach forgiveness when they're not the ones bleeding? It's always, let it go, or holding on to anger just hurts you. And maybe that's true for some things, but not this. Not when the people who hurt you never even had the decency to admit they did. After Brielle showed up at my door, I figured that was the worst of it. That was rock bottom, but it wasn't. Not even close. 2 weeks later, I got invited to a family mediation dinner. That's what my dad called it in the email. He actually used that word, mediation, like this was some corporate dispute to be resolved over pasta and guilt trips. They were hosting it at my parents' house, of course. Neutral ground, they said. We just want to talk. Come as you are. No pressure. I should have deleted the email, but I didn't. Frankie, I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see if they really got it, if they truly understood what they'd done to me. Or maybe some small, broken part of me still hoped they'd finally say, I'm sorry. So I went, and the second I walked in, I knew it was a mistake. The living room hadn't changed. Same outdated floral couch, same frame photos, except now there was a new one on the mantle. A baby, their baby, held lovingly in Brielle's arms, Travis's hand on her shoulder. The whole scene lit like a goddamn Hallmark ad. I stood there for maybe 5 seconds before my mother swooped in with this brittle smile and pulled me in for a hug I didn't return. She smelled like lavender and lies. We're so glad you came, sweetheart, she whispered. My father followed with a handshake like we were business associates. Takes a real man to show up, he said, as if I should be proud to stand in the ruins they built. Dinner was a disaster from the first plate. Brielle acted like nothing happened, made some bland comment about the traffic, asked if I was still working at that little tech place. Travis didn't say much, just sat there with this smug little smile on his face, like the whole thing was beneath him. And Sabrina? She wasn't there. Guess she didn't need to be. Her part was done. Halfway through the meal, my mother cleared her throat and said, "We want to talk about how we move forward." We? I asked, or you? She ignored that, kept going, said they'd all talked, her, Dad, Brielle, even Travis, and decided the best path was restoration. That word made me want to flip the damn table. Then my dad said it. This anger is beneath you, son. You're better than this. Frankie, something cracked open in me. I looked around at the people I shared blood with and realized I didn't know them. I never really had. These weren't people who loved me. They were people who tolerated me, used me, when it suited their image of what family should be. So I said what I came to say. I told them they didn't get to redefine my pain just because it made them uncomfortable. I told Brielle she was cruel, that she didn't just betray me, she gutted me. And Travis? I told him he was nothing, just a snake in nicer clothes. Then I turned to my parents. You didn't fail me because you chose Brielle over me. You failed me because you never gave me a chance to be anything other than what you already decided I was. A burden. A disappointment. My mom started crying. My dad told me I was being dramatic. I stood up, calmly put my napkin down and said, I'm done. And I meant it. I walked out of that house and out of that family. Not just figuratively, Frankie, literally. I changed my number, deleted every contact. I even legally changed my emergency contacts at work and the name listed on my lease. They don't exist to me anymore. It's been 6 months since that dinner. I haven't spoken a single word to any of them. I wake up without that weight in my chest. I cook for one. I play music in my apartment. I read again. Chance, the plant, is still alive, by the way. Thriving, actually. Every so often I get an email from some cousin or distant aunt saying they miss me, that the baby's starting to crawl, that Brielle's thinking of naming me godfather, if I'm ready. Frankie, I don't respond, because there's a line now, one they crossed and one I won't let them come back from. And it's not because I'm bitter, it's because peace doesn't come from forgiving people who aren't sorry. It comes from finally believing that you deserve better. Frankie, you ever watch a bridge burn? Not in the metaphorical way we always talk about, like, oh, burning bridges means regret or loss. I mean standing there in the quiet and watching something you once relied on, something you walked across 100 times, turn to ash. It's horrifying. It took losing everything to realize that I never really had anything to begin with. Not from them. You know what I learned in the silence that followed? That grief isn't always about losing love. Sometimes it's about losing the illusion that love ever existed in the first place. I thought I was mourning my family, Sabrina, the future I'd planned. But what I was really grieving was the hope that one day they'd see me, that one day they'd love me the way I spent my whole damn life loving them. I kept a box for a while, just a little one. Photos of Sabrina and me, a drawing I made for my mom when I was a kid that she never hung up, an old Father's Day card I'd given my dad, unopened, a picture of Brielle and me as kids before everything went sour. And then one day I opened it, and I didn't feel anything. Not anger, not sadness. So I burned it. I took it out to a little clearing by the river, this place I used to go when I needed to breathe. I lit a match, and I watched those pieces curl and blacken and crumble. And Frankie, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I exhaled. You see, I used to think that if I forgave them, I'd get some kind of closure, that I'd be free. But that's not how this works. Closure isn't handed to you by the people who broke you. Closure is when you stop waiting for an apology that's never coming and start living like you never needed it. People say forgive and forget like that's some noble act. But I remember everything, Frankie. I remember holding Sabrina's hand when she was scared to meet my parents. I remember being 13 and overhearing my dad say, "Don't expect too much from him." I remember every birthday that passed like it didn't matter. I remember Brielle smirking while my world crumbled. And I remember who I am now. I'm not the weak little boy they pitied. I'm not the backup plan Sabrina settled for. I'm not the emotional punching bag my parents raised. I'm a man who crawled out of the wreckage they left me in and learned how to walk without them. Do I still get lonely? Yeah. Do I sometimes wish things had been different? Of course. But that's not shame talking. That's the part of me that still believes in good people, that still wants family even if I have to build it from scratch. There's a quote I read once. Can't remember who said it, but it stuck. Sometimes the family you're born into is the trial you survive to find the one you deserve. So that's what I'm doing now. I've started volunteering at this after-school mentorship program, just a few hours a week, helping kids with tough home lives. And I see parts of myself in them, the way they shrink when they talk about their parents, the way they light up when someone actually listens. And for the first time, Frankie, I feel useful. I asked myself earlier if I was wrong not to forgive them. Here's my answer. I'm not wrong. And sometimes burning the bridge isn't the tragedy. It's the beginning of the road you were always meant to walk alone. And now I walk with purpose. Not looking back, not waiting for redemption. Just forward. Thanks for riding with me. Some stories don't get a clean ending. But if you ask me, sometimes survival's the resolution.